Robbie Moore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And from local people across the constituency, I receive countless emails and letters about the shocking state of our roads. People are rightly frustrated at potholes, the little and long waits for repairs forced on them by Bradford Council. And perhaps, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is one of the most important issues that all of us as MPs get correspondence about. Why? Because it impacts each and every day of our, whether it's commuting to work or whether it is simply getting out and about in the car to go and do other things. Because we all care about what the state of our roads is right outside our door. And I just want to take you through my constituency, referencing a few roads and highlighting the level of concern that constituents rightly raise to me. Take Elliott Street in Silsden in my constituency. I was first contacted by residents on this major road through the centre of Silsden years ago, Madam Deputy Speaker. The situation was poor then, and over the last few years has only gotten worse and worse, to the extent that people were referencing this on social media as being a mere joke, Madam Deputy Speaker, at the state of the road that Labour-run Bradford Council had left it in. And despite consistently raising this with Bradford Council, it has taken years for them to finally get on with it. And I'm pleased that literally just in the last 2 weeks, the resurfacing works have now finished. The works are welcome, of course they are, but residents on Elliott Street and indeed across the wider Silsden area should not have been having to wait years for such a busy and important road to be repaired. Elliott Street, Madam Deputy Speaker, is just one example. There are other similar stories within Keighley itself, on Westburn Avenue, on Oakworth Road, on Halifax Road and on North Street. The list goes on and on. In Ilkley, Madam Deputy Speaker, Cow Pasture Road has been lobbied consistently at a very difficult junction that we have at the top of Cow Pasture Road, right outside north of Ilkley Grammar, for the junction to be better looked at by our local Conservative councillors. David Nuns and Andrew Loy have consistently been lobbying Bradford Council to look at this dangerous junction. In the Worth Valley, Madam Deputy Speaker, the sides of the roads are crumbling on Hill House Edge Lane, with cars getting stuck in the ditches as they pass one another. And again, local Conservative councillors, Councillor Rebecca Paulson, Chris Hurd and Russell Brown, have consistently been lobbying Labour-run Bradford Council to sort this issue out, but yet no repairs have been undertaken. And I will give way to the honourable member.
Thank the honourable member for giving way. Not to make this too political, but just to kind of give a little bit of a view that I'm not a member for Bradford, although it should be noted, I think, that £350 million of revenue funding has been cut from Bradford Council since 2010, and they're doing an awful lot in a very difficult circumstance, brought around by his 14 years of Tory government.
I'm very pleased that the honourable member brought this issue up, because just in 2021, Bradford Council, through their statutory responsibility to provide feedback to MHCLG, or DLUC as it was at the time, reported, Madam Deputy Speaker, just in 2021, that they were in sound financial health. And actually, that was a year in which they applied to be City of Culture. And then, Madam Deputy Speaker, this year, residents across the Keighley and Ilkley constituency are now faced with a 10% increase in council tax, despite the state of our roads being in such a poor state. And it leads me on to a freedom of information request that I put to Bradford Council. And I was astounded to find out by this, and I welcome actually the Secretary of State's announcement today that there will be more transparency that is put on our local councils, because between 2017 and 2022, I obtained, through a freedom of information request to Bradford Council, that just 4%, Madam Deputy Speaker, of their identified spending for highways over that 6-year period was actually allocated to my constituency of Keighley and Ilkley. For reference, Madam Deputy Speaker, Labour-run Bradford Council were able to find and allocate £13.1 million for the Bradford South constituency, £19.2 million for the Bradford East constituency, £17.4 million for the Bradford West constituency, but only, Madam Deputy Speaker, over that 6-year period, just £4.1 million was spent across the Keighley and Ilkley constituency on highway spending. That is despite many concerns, quite rightly, being raised from residents across Keighley, Ilkley, the Worth Valley, Silsden, Steeton, wherever they may be in my constituency, complaining, quite rightly, about repairs of roads not being undertaken, pavements not being addressed, potholes not being looked at. So it is no wonder that that constituents are losing trust in our local Labour-run authority. And the list goes on, Madam Deputy Speaker, whether it is concerns that are being raised from local Conservative councillors trying to hold Labour-run Bradford Council to account, but yet we unfortunately seemed not to be getting anywhere and not being listened to. And when, Madam Deputy Speaker, Bradford Council do spend money on roads in my patch, the question is, do they actually spend that money on what people want it to be spent on? And of course they don't, Madam Deputy Speaker. Because when Bradford Council spent nearly or over £100,000 with an £87,500 contribution from Ilkley Town Council on roads in Ilkley, we got speed humps and a blanket 20-mile-an-hour zone, not our potholes being addressed in Ilkley. And in a parish council referendum on this very issue, 98.3% of people in Ilkley opposed this scheme, opposed a rollout of speed bumps, way over 100 speed bumps being rolled out in the centre of Ilkley. So if you asked anyone in Ilkley, Madam Deputy Speaker, what they would like, a good proportion of the 200 grand being spent on our roads, they would say, quite rightly, fix the potholes, sort out that junction at the top of Cow Pasture Road. But Bradford Council wouldn't listen. They go against a public referendum on this issue and instead spend the money on more speed humps, contrary to what the people in Ilkley quite rightly advocated through actually having a vote on this issue at the ballot box. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, what is the government going to do to ensure that my constituents get their fair deal on their roads from Bradford Council? It is no good the Secretary of State promising greater investment into roads, which of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, is absolutely vital and welcomed, but it is no good allocating these promises when the funds don't simply get past the dictatorial local council without allocating that money to my constituency in Keighley and Ilkley. In Keighley and Ilkley, we deserve our fair share, but unfortunately Bradford Council are more than happy to allocate our council tax and any central government funds that come in to the Bradford district, not on the roads in Keighley and Ilkley, Silsden, the Worth Valley, but instead in Bradford City itself. And Madam Deputy Speaker, it's about time that we had our fair share of highway spending in our constituency across Keighley and Ilkley.
Before leaving, we request everyone to like and share the video so that it reaches a wider audience. Also, feel free to comment down your thoughts.